Chapter 5 Karma and Destiny 1. Why is it that we don't develop the desire to know the truth? There are 3 reasons for this, as elucidated by our scriptures: avidya or ignorance, kama or wrong desires, and karma or actions directed towards such wrong desires. Well, if one dwells deeply, the root cause of the latter two can be discovered in the very first reason, which is ignorance. These 3, avidya, kama, karma, are known in our scriptures as hridaya granthi, or knot of the heart. It binds a person so tightly that it becomes difficult to loosen and free oneself from the knot. The desire to know something develops only if someone gets to know that such a thing exists. For instance, unless you know that a new product version has come in the market, be it of your favorite car or a phone, you won't be able to develop a desire for it. So, the first reason for not having any desire for self-realization is the ignorance that such a concept exists in the first place. And that's due to the company of those who are also equally ignorant about it. This is called avidya or ignorance, which is the foremost reason for people lacking a desire to know their divinity. While on one side, it is the ignorance of the existence of divinity, on the other side, it's also the incorrect knowledge about the world around, which is experienced by the body and the mind of a person. The second reason is kama or wrong desires born out of avidya. Faulty knowledge of the world and its transitory pleasures makes one believe that this world is real and the joys of the world will be everlasting. This creates a chain of desires to seek the world instead of God. Also, even if someone comes to know that such a thing as divinity exists, the destructive desires which seek paltry pleasures of the body and instant but fleeting joys of the mind do not allow one to constantly pursue the path of self-realization. The body and its various needs, the mind and its needless wants, constantly drive the person into the dogged pursuit of their gratification, leaving barely any energy left to dedicate oneself for self-realization. The third reason is karma or actions, which are born out of kama or the desire for something. When one develops a fallacious desire, in the sense that it is a desire that is different from self-realization, then one is compelled to undertake actions to fulfill them. For example, if you want a new gadget or a particular possession, you need to acquire it by certain efforts, righteous or otherwise. We all know Newton's third law of motion, which states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and this applies in the case of karma or action too. Every action undertaken also produces reaction or consequences. These consequences can be pleasurable or painful depending on the kind of action undertaken. But the reaction or consequences of karma, called karma prabhava, have to be experienced without fail. This reaction born out of any action leads to the next action and therefore the next reaction, and this cycle goes on and on. Consider this example. You might desire for a new wristwatch that you may have seen the other day on a billboard. Now, to buy that, which is slightly beyond your budget, you must spend some of your savings or earn some money or take a loan. Each of these will affect you in its own way. If you spend your savings, you are left with lesser security, which may make you anxious and compel you to earn more to compensate for that. If you have to earn more, you will have to work extra hours, which means you will have to take time out from other activities like rest and leisure, and that may impact your health. If you borrow money to buy the watch, well, I do not need to explain the consequences. The loan which will have to be repaid will naturally create anxiety and restlessness. So, while there is the pleasure of having acquired the prized possession of the watch, it did set off a trail of action and reaction behind it. And more often than not, by the time you finally buy the new model of that watch, there is this newer version up for sale in the market, triggering a new sequence of desires and actions. This way, having developed a desire other than liberation, one would be bound by the chain of action and reaction. These actions and reactions, which are like the alternating links of a chain born out of desires other than self-realization, is in turn born out of the ignorance of the true purpose of human birth and is the cause why most people don't pursue the path of self-realization. 2. How to get rid of the consequences of karma. Though there are billions of beings, each performing millions of actions which bear millions of results, yet, like a great postal system, every envelope addressed to you gets delivered to your address only and not to your neighbor or the wrong person. The reaction to every single action will be precisely delivered to you in its own time, and no one can escape that. Is there a way for you to do something about it? Is there a way you can avoid the consequences? Is there a way you can escape the results of your actions? The answer is yes, there is a way. The actions that you do are like letters written to someone, and the letters will be delivered only to the one to whom it has been addressed. However, if you change the address and redirect these envelopes, it will go to the new destination, the new address. Likewise, all your karma, when you address it to yourselves as I am the doer, will bring the results back to you. However, when we redirect it to God, saying, God, you are the doer, and all these things are being offered to you, then you have changed the address on the envelope, and all these actions go to God. Nevertheless, just as a postal letter will not get delivered to the intended address without the stamp of appropriate value, likewise, even if you try to escape by transferring the results of your actions to God, unless there is the stamp of devotion and love, it will not get delivered to God. Devotion alone can help you get rid of your past karma and prevent accumulation of more karma. Whatever you do, if you offer it to God with complete sincerity and surrender, it will get negated, whether good or bad. Whatever you throw into the fire will get destroyed and become ash. Similarly, with the sincere fire of paschatapa or repentance, with great devotion for the Lord, if you offer whatever it is, it will be consumed. The other option is that you become self-realized, after which the identification with the body and the resulting doership disappears. Thereby, actions happen through you but not by you. You become a mere instrument of God, and all actions and results therefrom accrue to God, who is the real doer. The knife is only an instrument, but the surgeon is the doer. Likewise, you will be a mere instrument with God being the doer, or like a judge who simply carries out his duty to punish the criminal but does not do it on his own accord. 3. What is destiny and what drives it? The ultimate purpose of one's life is truly one's final destiny. To realize that final divine destiny, there are smaller goals that are to be achieved. It's like while traveling to a certain city, which is the final destination, the intermediate villages and towns need to be crossed. The ultimate destiny of all human beings is to evolve and become divine. But on the way to this journey, one needs to realize several smaller destinies, be it education, family, profession, and the likes. However, these intermediate destinies should always lead one to the final destiny of realizing one's divinity, and not distract one from the ultimate goal and purpose. Divine destiny is the result of the confluence of divine grace and human effort. There is no destiny without either one of them. Both are interdependent for their fulfillment. The world is a great combination of divine grace and human effort. Divine grace needs human effort to fulfill itself, and vice versa. Similar to how a chariot with a single wheel cannot move. Hence, only those who put in sincere effort and strive will reach their true destiny. 4. What is forgiveness, and how does it help one spiritually? Love lives by giving and forgiving. Spirituality is all about love, so giving and forgiving is spirituality. It is a great virtue. Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Even in that last hour of pain and suffering, he still had the heart to pray for those who had hurt him, and that is why he is worshipped even today. Have you seen the game of tug of war, where two people pull a rope from opposite ends? As long as they both keep pulling in opposite directions, there is a struggle. But the moment one side lets go, peace comes and the fight ends. Forgiveness is like letting go. Continuing the fight does more harm to you than the other person. The poison of anger stays in you and poisons you. But when you forgive, you let go. It helps you first before others. When there is no involvement between you and the other person, where is the question of karma? When you have already allowed it to go, there is no further connection. So, there is no more karma. Revenge is more an enemy to you than the other person. It is like a fire that burns you first. So apply the water of love and douse the fire. Forgiving is a divine quality. Forgive and forget. 5. How can we get rid of the negative effects of unfulfilled promises which we may have made? Anything that we speak affects us. When you make a promise, you are committing yourself to someone or something, and the self-commitment is a very important quality. If you keep wasting your words, don't value your own words, nobody will value you. Nobody will value your words if you don't value them yourself. So think twice before you make a promise, and once you have made it, you must stick to it, stick to that commitment. Sometimes if you don't fulfill a promise, that guilt stays within you somewhere. You might brush it under the carpet for the time being, and you might decide not to think about it. But that guilt that was generated does not die. It lies there deep down somewhere, and you keep going there. It does bring guilt and negativity and bad feelings to us. So, what is the way of getting rid of it, the guilt? Whatever you had committed to do, if not right then, at least at a later point in time, you should fulfill that promise. Don't break it. Don't forget it. Because if you don't fulfill it in this birth, you will have to be born again to fulfill that promise and keep your word. That's why I say, speak sparingly. Because you should not say something that may hurt others. You should not speak something that is untrue. And also, you should not waste too much energy speaking. So, it's best to keep silence as sadhana. Promises are sometimes made emotionally. That's why, when you're too happy, don't make promises. Because you may say things without thinking. Nevertheless, once you have said it, it's your duty. Dasharatha made a promise to Kaikeyi, his wife. By any means, she should have protected her husband. For that, a husband may not give a special boon. But, in his happiness and excitement, he ended up giving 2 boons, and look at what the boons did to Dasharatha. Dasharatha declined. I don't want to fulfill this promise. But Rama stood up and said, that is not dharma. You made a promise and it must be fulfilled. So any promise you make is very important. I would always suggest that when you are too angry or when you are too happy, you better not speak too much because you will most likely end up in some problem or another. So speak less during those times. 6. What is that we can do to escape the consequences of past actions which were done in previous births but are bearing consequences now? There are 3 types of karmas. Prarabdha karma are those which are now bearing results. Sanchita karma are those that are done like in previous birth, but their consequences are yet to be experienced. And agami karma are those which you may undertake now. All karmas has consequences, and one must experience them sooner or later. That is the law. The example given in our scriptures is that of an archer with a bow and arrows. The arrow that has already been shot and cannot be stopped is like prarabdha karma, that which has already happened, and therefore its effect must be experienced. The arrows in the quiver which are yet to be used are like sanchita karma, which have been done earlier but are yet to bear the consequences. And the arrow which is placed on the bow is like the agami karma, as it is about to happen but hasn't happened yet. From this analogy, it is quite clear that the archer can do something about the arrow placed on the bow, but not the one already shot. Likewise, even when one becomes self-realized, his sanchita karma and agami karma does not have any effect on him. But the ones that are already bearing fruit must be experienced even by him. The difference between the realized one and the others is just that the realized one is able to bear it with a smile, as he is able to rise above the mundane human existence, but the rest suffer through the consequences. For a realized being, without doership, there are no more karmas in the future, as he does not associate with the body and the mind and the actions that are performed through them. He simply becomes an instrument of the divine, for the divine to do its will through him. In a way, he becomes a witness to the actions being done. 7. Which is true, free will or destiny, and are they complementary to each other? This question haunts most people, especially when they are going through rough times. When good times are on, rarely anyone gets this question. When things go wrong, people question, why me? However, no one asks this when things are favorable. Anyways, this question is as intriguing to the ordinary as whether Sunday came first or Monday, whether tree came first or the seed. The Supreme Creator bestowed everyone with a free will and allowed them to use it according to their inclinations and dispositions. It is something like a father who gave pocket money to his young son and allowed him to spend as he pleased. The father giving money to his son is destiny, but the way the son can spend it is his free will. Now, the son can spend it as he wants or could return it to the father. He can ask the father to decide what is best to buy. God gave free will to all to use, but those who are devoted and those who surrender their will to God becomes God's responsibility, and all decisions are taken by the divine for them, whereas the others go about doing things for themselves and must undergo the consequences accordingly. Another way of looking at it is, think of God as the director of a drama and the individual as an actor. The role is fixed, the dialogues are decided, but the actor still has the freedom to practice, rehearse, and perform to the best of his or her ability. The casting of actors in their roles is destiny. The individual performance is free will. Therefore, they are intertwined. Only those who are completely surrendered to God are guided by their divine destiny. Someone may state another philosophy and say that everything is predestined. And so what is it that we can do as humans? Our mistakes are also predestined, and so are our good deeds. Then they must also believe that the good results they experience are also predestined, and so also the bad experiences of the bad actions. The truth is that only a realized being will have no doubts about it, as he would always live in the constant awareness of his divinity and look at everything as mere illusions like a dream. Whether a good dream or a bad dream, it is still a dream, and what you do within a dream with your will or without are still in the dream.